So a new bill has been introduced into Congress, and this one seeks to redefine bump stocks in similar devices as actual machine guns under the NFA. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think that the federal government needs to stop infringing on our Second Amendment rights, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank one of the main supporters of the channel, which is USCCA. Through your membership, you get training, education, and self-defense liability protection. So if you carry a firearm, I highly recommend you check out USCCA, and I'll put a link to them down in the details section. Also, I want to let you know that this content is powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. So head on over to joinfpc.org to help support the Second Amendment cause. Thank you again, Firearms Policy Coalition, for supporting this channel. So like I said in the intro, a new bill has been introduced in Congress to try and change the definition of what a machine gun is under the NFA. This definition change would make it so that the term machine gun, as defined in the NFA, will include things like bump stocks and other similar devices. This piece of legislation is H.R. 5427, also known as the Closing the Bump Stock Loophole Act of 2021. This bill is sponsored by Dina Titus out of Nevada. Now, some quick background on this whole bump stock issue if you're not familiar. For many years, the ATF had correctly concluded that the NFA and the GCA's definition of the term machine gun did not include devices like bump stocks and other similar devices. However, after the tragic events in Las Vegas in 2017, the ATF, after being ordered by former President Trump, decided to arbitrarily change their regulatory definition of machine gun so that bump stocks would be considered to actually be machine guns. So that was an executive kind of agency reinterpretation of that definition in the GCA. This new rule of the ATF took effect on March 26th of 2019. Therefore, under federal law, owners were required to either destroy the devices or surrender them to the ATF. This change in the interpretation of the definition made possessors of bump stocks subject to a punishment of 10 years in prison and or a fine of $250,000 if they failed to destroy or to surrender those devices that were essentially bump stocks. Now, that action was done on the part of the ATF as an executive agency to reinterpret the NFA's definition of what a machine gun is so that bump stocks and similar devices were included in that definition. That was all interpretation on the part of the executive agency, the ATF there. And as a result of that reinterpretation, multiple lawsuits popped up, including one from GOA in the Sixth Circuit. Well, now in contrast, you have a member of Congress attacking these devices through a new piece of legislation. This bill would classify bump stocks as machine guns per a new definition in the National Firearms Act, or the NFA. This change would also require all devices that meet the definition as redefined to be registered as an actual NFA item no later than 1 year after the passage of that bill. Under this bill, the term bump stock will mean 1. Any manual, power-driven, or electronic device that is designed such that when the device is attached to a semi-automatic weapon, the device eliminates the need for the operator of the semi-automatic weapon to make a separate movement for each individual function of the trigger. And then it goes on to state, and A, materially increase the rate of fire of the semi-automatic weapon, or B, approximates the action or rate of fire of a machine gun. It also states under subsection 2 that it can also be any part or combination of parts that does what is described in that first section as well. And then under subsection 3, it also says that a bump stock can be considered not just the device itself or a combination of parts, but also if someone actually changes or modifies a semi-automatic weapon that actually meets all those criteria in that first section. The bill then concludes by also saying that people will need to register the possession of these devices within 1 year, register them with the ATF as an actual NFA item. So these devices, components, combination of parts, all these things will be registered as an actual NFA item. However, one interesting thing to note with this bill and everything in regards to this legislation is that the ATF is already making the claim that based on their interpretation, this definition as it stands currently in the NFA already covers bump stocks, and that bump stocks are actually covered as machine guns in the actual language that exists right now. And on that basis, they have instituted policies and have threatened criminal penalties and fines against individuals who are in possession of these items. And then they had those new rules where you would have to either destroy them or give them up to the ATF. However, you now have this bill, in contrast, being introduced to change the definition of machine gun so that it now includes bump stocks as an actual machine gun. The reality is we all know that bump stocks are not machine guns and should not be interpreted to be such by the ATF. And they should not be redrafted into the definition by Congress either, because these devices are not machine guns. They are not machine guns currently under the actual definition right now, and they were never intended to be interpreted or defined as machine guns either. As of right now, this bill does not have a ton of co-sponsors, but we have seen multiple gun control laws passed recently in the House this year, so we cannot just simply brush this off and say it's not a huge deal and just sit on our hands. I highly recommend you guys reach out to your local representatives, reach out to your representatives in the House and the Senate to let them know that you oppose this bill, that you oppose this bill's intent and guidance on redefining what a machine gun is under the NFA. Because one really important thing to note with this could trickle into other issues like SBRs with pistol braces, frames and receivers, treating triggers like the rare breed trigger as machine guns. If Congress is allowed to go in after the fact retrospectively and change these definitions in the NFA, it doesn't limit really just to these bump stocks themselves. They can go in and do it with a ton of things and implement more gun control. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos, in this type of 2A news, and then it pushes it to more people. So thank you so much to everybody who's liked, commented, subscribed, who's hit the notification bell. You guys are helping me to reach my goal of reaching 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We are rapidly approaching that, but if you are not currently subscribed, I would be forever grateful if you guys did subscribe. If you find values in these videos, please subscribe. And also, if you're a new subscriber, go ahead and comment down below that you're a new subscriber, and I'll make sure I comment back to you. And if you don't have a comment in mind, just comment down below that you're commenting to fuel the algorithm, and that really does help push these videos more. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget, this station is built by armed scholars, and the station will be maintained by armed scholars.